in Texas, the FBI has joined the manhunt for a man suspected of killing 5 of his neighbors. Police say this 38-year-old opened fire on a family next door when they asked him to stop firing a rifle in his front yard because their baby was trying to sleep. Now, 5 people are dead, including an 8-year-old child. Minutes ago, the sheriff and the FBI held a news conference in that area saying the suspect may have fled from that vicinity. This latest gruesome attack unfolded about 40 miles northeast of Houston, and CNN's Ryan Young is following all the latest developments for us. He joins us live. Ryan, the sheriff of the FBI, they just wrapped up a news conference a few moments ago. What did we learn?
Yeah, Jim, this has been troubling all day long as we've been following the developments. And of course, we'll put their face up one more time because they're looking for Francisco Oropeza. But what we're learning from the Sheriff's Department and the FBI right now, they seem like they were tracking a device, which we believe was a cell phone. And at some point, they were getting pings from that cell phone. They've now located a device, but they have not located this man. Let's all remember that this man apparently was asked to stop shooting his gun in the front yard, then eventually went next door, according to the Sheriff's Department, and opened fire on this family that was inside this home, killing 5 people, including an 8-year-old. And as we look at the ages that have just been released, along with some of the names here, we see a 25-year-old, a 21-year-old, a 31-year-old, an 18-year-old, and an 8-year-old all shot during this shooting. This is something that has shaken that community. Listen to the FBI talk about what they consider this man to be right now.
We consider him armed and dangerous, and we're not going to stop until we actually arrest him and bring him into custody. But he is out there, and he's a threat to the community. So I don't want anyone to think that that's something different than that. He is a threat to the community, and we need the community's help to hopefully locate him soon and take him off the streets tonight.
Jim, now you see the Sheriff Greg Capers sitting right next to the FBI agent there as they were talking. It also appears that he may have changed his clothing at some point as well. So they're not sure right now. They're not saying whether or not he was communicating with someone. They believe he's still on foot. And of course, that's why that picture that we're putting up is so important, because the more eyes on that picture, which they weren't sharing early on the day, maybe the more phone calls they can get into their centers that they have set up to increase this manhunt. So we now know they have a device, electronic device that they were tracking at some point that's no longer with this man. And you have those 5 people who were killed inside this home. On top of that, Jim, there were 2 other children in that home that 2 of the dead women's bodies were on top of, because it appears they were shielding those kids from the bullets. They were all shot execution style, which just seems so sickening when you think about all that has taken place here.
Juliet, you heard the sheriff just a few moments ago say that, you know, the suspect really could be anywhere at this point. It sounds like they had an opportunity there for several hours to find him, and he's just given them the slip. And so now that part of Texas is dealing with a very dangerous situation right now.
Yes, I think that was the purpose of the press conference. It was a little bit odd. They did not explain why the FBI would have jurisdiction unless there's something related to his immigration status. We know he's a Mexican national, and despite what people think, actually nationals can lawfully purchase guns in this country. And so this may be a lawful purchase, but then if it involves another country, maybe that's the nexus with the FBI, or it has something to do with capacity, whether this county can do it. But they had him. He dumps his, what we can tell, he dumps the phone. He seems to have changed clothing. We don't know if he has a car. It appears that he doesn't, so he might be on foot. And the AR-15 that he used for the executions earlier is in possession of the police, but they don't know if he has other arms, simply because it sounds like he was a person who law enforcement encountered a lot based on his fetish with guns, shooting them into the air. They were often called to his house. So my guess is that given the time, what they are saying is it's going to be dark soon, and they're hoping they get him in the next 2 to 2.5 hours. I think that was the purpose of that press conference.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And Ryan Young, Juliet just mentioned this a few moments ago, and this stood out to me at the very end of that news conference, where the sheriff said, yes, they had been called to the home before. The neighbors had been complaining about this man shooting off his guns somewhere in the yard, that sort of thing, and that it was disturbing to the neighbors. And it sounds as though that was what was going on last night that led to this terrible tragedy.
Yeah, but I think Julie also makes another point. this might be about capacity as well. When you have a small sheriff's department like the one where the sheriff's actually taking some of these 911 calls and being dispatched himself, they may not have the technology to really dig down and triangulate the area in which the cell phone was pinging from that they were searching for. That's why in the initial hours, when they weren't putting out that picture, I believe they probably thought they knew exactly where this man was. And then after that cell phone was found and they realized whatever they thought they were tracking, he may have moved on from. That might be the reason why they put this picture out at this point, because as we know, people can be a force multiplier, and the more eyes people have to see this man, that helps law enforcement be able to track him down. You think about this. This was a call where neighbors went next door and basically asked the man to stop shooting on his porch. And at some point from there, he then walked back across, according to the sheriff's department, and started using that gun on the victims inside that home. They actually have Ring video from the Ring doorbell camera that shows someone entering and leaving. So they believe they actually have the footage of the suspect coming and going. And you look at the ages of the people who were involved in there. There were 10 people inside that home. I believe most of them were from Honduras. You have a 25-year-old, a 21-year-old, a 31-year-old, an 18-year-old, and of course, the really significant part of the 8-year-old who was killed in this. And it was all done by execution style, so something that was very gruesome that they had to deal with.
Just absolutely horrific. All right, Julia Kayyem, Ryan Young, thanks for helping us wrap up that press conference there. But again, just to catch up our viewers here, if they're tuning in right now, especially in this area of Cleveland, Texas, if you see this man, Francisco Oropeza, be very careful. He is considered armed and dangerous by the FBI. He is wanted in this manhunt at this hour for the killing of 5 people at a home in Cleveland, Texas, including an 8-year-old child. A mass shooting has once again happened in this country, this time because neighbors wanted this man, according to authorities, to please stop shooting his gun in his yard. And instead, authorities say he went over to the house where these people died and killed them, execution style.